Hello, and welcome to part 2 of our discussion on why we love Marvel. This is your friendly narrative practitioner, Derrick, here, back in action. And just want to let you know that this is a part 2 indeed. And so we are picking up right where we left off in part 1. So if you have not heard that episode where we discussed the history of Marvel, the superhero mythos, how we were introduced to Marvel, and what makes comic book storytelling so great, I'd highly recommend that you check that out before diving into this adventure that we are about to go on. So buckle up and let's do this thing. Here we go. Hello, and welcome to the All Things Narrative Podcast, where we explore the relationships between the stories we love and the stories we live. I'm your host, Derrick Hatch, and let's get started. I will oblige now and transition into films and television.
Done A.
Yeah.
So, we're limiting this to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And Inglourious Basterds.
One of the great. Please, can we talk about that movie sometime?
This is the best Tarantino movie.
That is better than Django. I'm sorry.
Yes, it is.
Better
Yes,
than
it is.
Django.
I love Django.
It probably
I
is
love
Pulp
Django.
Fiction just based on impact,
so
but
shut up.
Inglourious Basterds is my favorite. And
I agree.
It still might be the best one.
It is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen
It's so much
in my
fun.
life.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about Tarantino today.
There's always
are-
room to talk about that.
So I want to give a few disclaimers before we jump into this. Number one, in order to not get overwhelmed with this conversation, we are not going to talk about Spider-Man or X-Men in this episode. We've all agreed on this because we will do separate episodes on both of those. Spider-Man will be out in August, which is the 60th anniversary of that character. And then X-Men will be out in the fall. So those episodes are coming, but we will not talk about those. We will, like, Spider-Man's in, some of the Avengers movies, so we will talk about him in those. But we're not talking about any solo Spider-Man stuff or solo X-Men stuff. We're saving that for separate episodes because those are whole episodes in and of themselves. The second disclaimer I want to give is we've all decided that our focus in terms of talking about the films or the properties, I should say, is going to be on the Infinity Saga. So I know Marvel's made some new stuff the last couple years in Phase 4, but kind of like what we did with the Skywalker Saga for Star Wars, we're going to really hone in on the Infinity Saga because that is a complete story that we can talk about from beginning to end.
And that's the first 23, right?
First 23, yes.
First 23 in the movies.
So try to
For
limit
those who
it.
don't know.
Yeah, so try to limit, and TV shows that came out around that time are fair game as well. But nothing post Spider-Man Far From Home. But we're not even going to really talk about Far From Home because that's a solo Spider-Man film. Yeah. So really post Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
None of that really matters because we're only going to just talk about Ant-Man.
Hey, listen, Ant-Man. So after Fantastic Four was created, Ant-Man was next. So
Really?
don't sleep on Ant-Man.
This is second Marvel comic ever?
Second prop. No, not ever, but from the Silver Age when Stan Lee started creating them all.
That's funny.
So Marvel Cinematic Universe. So really started with that 2008 Iron Man film. Marvel Studios making their first film where the comic book creators are making the film and they're being brought into the process intentionally and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a wonderful thing, and we all know the famous post-credit scene
With Thanos, right?
Samuel L. Jackson. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Since we're talking about Tarantino, I might as well transition. Samuel L. Jackson comes out and says, "What does he say, Mr. Stark?"
Yeah, I'm Nick Fury, and I want
To start the Avengers Initiative.
Yep. You're
and the funny thing about
you're a part of a bigger universe.
And funny thing about that, why Samuel Jackson is actually this Nick Fury in the MCU, because in the Ultimate Comics, he looks like Nick Fury.
Hey,
But
there you go!
but
Comic
they did
book
that-
references.
But they did that before, like, the MCU, so Nick Fury could have, not Nick Fury, Samuel Jackson could have sued them because it was like, hey, this looks exactly like me with just an eye patch, but he was like, if you do movies with the comic, like with that character, I have to play that character.
That's how it worked out?
Yeah. So that's why
It's great.
That's a
Just
least
like- he's a
resistant way of
G,
making
man.
money.
He's a
Yeah,
G.
and that's just like Samuel Jackson with Star Wars, like, hey, I just want a purple lightsaber.
Yeah, that was him too. That was all him. Purple lightsaber.
Oh, yes, the negotiator.
So as we're gonna talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we've decided to break it up here to where we're each gonna take different pockets of it based on what we're interested in. So here's the order. We're gonna go in order, okay? Right. So Jason is gonna go first.
Oh, first? No.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going this way.
You are going first.
Oh, I don't want to.
We may not get to the other two.
The foundation of the MCU. Nope. Since you picked the foundation of the MCU, you're going first. Too bad. You've had weeks to get ready.
High key, though, you
Joseph is a natural. What you're talking about is natural off what Jason's talking about. So you're gonna go second.
Yeah. What do you even?
I'm gonna go third.
Tell me yet.
No, I'm gonna go third.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna have you go last. And spoiler alert is in effect from this point on for everything.
Alex, stop watching.
What has he not watched?
Listening. Stop listening. You can't listen anymore.
Yeah, if you have not seen these movies or shows and you want to at any point, you might just want to stop here and just pause and go watch that stuff, read comics, all that, because we are gonna spoil the heck out of everything. So just a disclaimer here. So Jason, you're up. Who do you want to talk about?
So I'm talking about really my foundation with the series, and the foundation of the series in general is Iron Man.
Let me get my alcohol.
Guts.
Okay. I've already finished mine, so I'm perfectly ready to talk about
this. Go
this.
ahead and refill.
Maybe I will get a little more.
Like the character.
But so I have to be in character for this one. So Iron Man is very, very, very interesting because, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've heard, is that with the conception of Iron Man, he was supposed to be a unlikable person that we are now made to like.
Yes.
And he does that.
Yeah.
Very well. And it's so interesting because he is Iron
Man's first appearance right here.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
Silver tin can like in the cave.
And that's
freaking love it.
Looks like the mummy.
Yep. It's the box of scraps. That's his first outfit.
But so Derrick gave me a thought that I kind of held on to as I was rewatching my source material for this podcast. And that thought was that Iron Man or Tony Stark is an extremely intelligent man who makes a lot of his decisions based off emotion and not logic. And it's funny because when he explains them to everybody, it is logical as he explains it, but the way that he acts, it reveals why. And the thing is, he makes all these huge decisions like that. It's so quick.
Just like
and he did that too.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, in the cave, as soon as he gets out, he immediately gets on a press conference and goes, yeah, by the way, my company that sells weapons is no longer gonna sell weapons anymore. And stock plummets and everything goes crazy. And it was like, what? But he made it based off what he saw, what he thought was right, but it was not even at all tempered. Just, this is what's right. We're going to shut it down immediately. No thought, completely reckless, completely rash. And a lot of his decisions are. And the question is usually, is he being selfish or is he truly trying to be, is he really trying to be altruistic? He signs the Accords, the Sokovia Accords, because it's what's right, and it happens right after he talked to the woman after he gave everyone money. At the MIT
great scene
college.
By the way.
Yeah,
and he even goes and he looks up the kid's profile.
Yeah.
Like he does even more research, and he's consumed with guilt. And there's the line that the lady says that there's often not causality. There's often a link of philanthropy and guilt. And one thing that I see Tony Stark operating off of a lot is fear and guilt.
Yes.
There's the fear that he's going to lose what he has. He's going to lose Pepper Potts. He's going to lose civilization, the world. And he just acts rashly, proactively. And most of the time, he is ending up fighting his own creation. He fights in the first movie. He fights Obadiah in a rehash of the first suit he created. He fights the guy who stole his technology.
Whiplash in the second one.
Yeah. That's his name. Wow.
Yeah, I got you.
Whiplash.
I got you.
He fights Whiplash in Iron Man 2. He fights the Mandarin in the third movie.
More like the butchered Mandarin.
Look.
Don't even get me started.
Then cover your ears while I talk about it.
See me coming.
Stop it.
I will do
See
it
Mandarin
again.
up there on my wall? That's what I wanted in that movie. Did I get that? No.
Yep.
But you got him in 10 Rings. The Shang-Chi movie.
I know, but he's Iron Man's arch nemesis. That's what people don't understand in the comics.
The third Iron Man?
That's his arch nemesis.
Wow.
And they neutered him in that movie.
Could have fooled me.
Yeah, exactly, right?
But
keep
anyways,
going.
yeah, his movies kind of suffer from like a really memorable villain. In fact, I had to rewatch the first movie to remember it was Obadiah, but or his name, anyways. But in the third one, the Mandarin really was kind of a product of his neglect and his just apathy towards anyone but himself, right? Yeah. But and then Ultron, enough said.
Yeah.
He is fighting his own creation all the time.
Yeah.
And just an output of his rash actions.
Yeah.
Spider-Man has to face his problems too sometimes.
We're not talking about him.
I know.
No, you can bring it
not
in if it's relevant to that.
Ah, never mind.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. Actually, I don't know if I want to go into that one yet. Actually, no, I will touch on it a little bit. So there's a lot of things at play. There's this guilt that he's trying to accommodate for, and Nick and I were talking about it. We were questioning. So Captain America, in their argument together, he tells Tony Stark that he is not the type of person to make the sacrifice play. As I was pleased to point out to Nick, he made at least 3. Maybe even 4.
He actually made a sacrifice in all 4 Avengers movies.
There we go.
I will touch on that.
Here we go.
Hold on. Is he sacrificing?
Yes.
Is he doing this for the right reason?
So that's what I'm bringing up.
Or is
That's
he
what I'm bringing
trying
up.
to save himself and his own image?
That is what I'm bringing up.
Because Iron Man is filled with, Tony Stark is filled with that.
He is.
In Ultron, he said that my legacy is the world dying. He's fighting to save his own legacy. He's not fighting to save the world.
But this is what makes him so compelling.
Yes.
It is all that.
So this got me thinking, what is a hero and where is Tony Stark's heroism? What are we really cheering for? What kind of myth are we watching? And how are we connecting to this? And then I started thinking...
Are you about to say what I think you're about to say? Where are you going with this?
Then I started thinking, why do people like Iron Man?
Wow!
So no. I'm not against him. I just wanted to pose this and see what y'all think.
No, that's good.
Yeah, because ours are going to connect.
Are people liking Iron Man because he is humorous, because he's rich, because he's got all this technology, he's a genius, because he's entertaining, because a lot of his motivations are a little questionable.
That is true. But it's a journey, and again, I'm gonna touch. I'm gonna touch on that.
Hold on.
I love the
how
journey.
do you get the hand?
Because the journey. Iron Man is the perfect character to do the snap, which I'm holding a hand that's modeled as a snap, because he has been the most questionable character internally, and so he finally reaches the highest point of heroism, which is sacrificing himself truly, because he had his family, he had his whole life, he was done, he didn't need any of it, and he gave himself at the highest level, I think, of every Avenger, which was perfect for him. But before that, how many times has he really sacrificed himself?
Okay,
so
because he's working for himself.
I got this.
I'm just gonna sit back and let this happen.
I'll let you.
We got to this way quicker than I thought, but that's good.
So remember, keep in mind, we have 3 more to talk about after this.
You
so let's not take forever. Let's not take forever.
That is on you. Just
Give me
kidding.
back the hand. Give me back the hand. I like the snap.
So there's a lot of things. There's the trauma that Tony Stark is dealing with. He still operates as an orphan because he just the mindset. He lost his father, who was already cold. He lost his mother. Even when he's fighting Bucky, and he just makes it's just emotion trying to kill him. He even said, "I don't care." He killed my mother. He didn't say he killed my parents. He killed my mother.
You gotta run hands. You killed my mom, bro.
So there's the estrangement from his father already, and yet we see this almost attempt to be that. 2 child figures. There's the little boy whose name I can't remember in Iron Man 3. And then there's Peter Parker.
Yeah.
So it's almost like he's trying to fill that void through them and be something he didn't get.
Yep.
Even when he's pretending to be cold, and I think a lot of Tony Stark is really an act.
Yeah.
Even when he's pretending to be cold, he's really being warm. He's being a lot warmer towards them than we think. It's part of his act to be cold, to be selfish, to be flamboyant, to be. He almost like he puts on this image, and he just unhighly, yeah, I'm selfish. Yeah, I don't care. You're in a relationship with me. Of course it's going to be hard. Like I think he thinks so highly of himself and so lowly of himself, which pushes these sacrifice plays, which he has made a lot. He took the nuke into the portal in the Avengers, and it's not like in the moment you don't think this is for my image, this is for that. Myself, all he's thinking of is Jarvis save the rest of the energy for the turn upwards.
So that's
it. He's just cruising this thing in.
Yeah.
He closes his eyes when he's falling. He's dead as far as he's concerned.
And he called Pepper too. He figured in his heart, I'm about to die.
He thought he was gone.
I want to transition and bring Joe your Avengers conversation, because you're going to talk about all 4 Avengers films. I want to start to bring you into this conversation with Iron Man and not separate them, because I think they're necessary. But one thing I want to say real quick before we go forward on that is you mentioned Civil War. And I think Civil War really spotlights how complicated of a character he is. And it does that for the audience, because when you watch Civil War, and my biggest problem with Civil War is that the movie is called Captain America Civil War. It should, I think,
Iron Man Civil War.
Well, no. I don't think that either. I think
Avengers.
The entire Phase 2 should have been some type of hints up to the actual Civil War movie.
Yeah,
like there should have been a lead up to it, because the Civil War actually comic is like it's in depth.
Well, and I think like what makes Civil War so compelling is not knowing which side is true. Like you're going to have different people.
They're both right, they're both wrong.
And I think the movie is slightly skewed towards Captain America's point. Like when you watch it, even though it makes Iron Man's points incredibly compelling, I feel like the movie is trying to tell me Captain America is right.
Yep.
And that's my biggest problem with that movie, is that I feel like they should have left a little more room for the audience. But
I would have to watch it again.
But still, as I'll share later, it's one of my favorite MCU films. And Captain and Iron Man is so dang compelling in that movie. And I am Team Iron Man because mostly because of who's on the team. But because Iron Man, like I connect with that being a smart guy, but emotionally making decisions based on that is like a lot of my life. And I really identify with that. So like a lot of people, and Peter Parker's the same way. And so it's like, those are 2 characters that operate like that. So they're characters for me that I identify with a lot. But I want to bring in, so Joke, if you want to start to bring in your Avengers conversation into this.
So
I'm still going to talk about
the
other sacrifice.
But it's cool. Listen, but it's cool that Jason, you brought it up with Iron Man, because you brought up the trauma side of it. But I've got to say, and this may be like a hot topic, but the Avengers movies as a total, and probably even some of the other movies within the MCU, are a continuation of Iron Man's story. And
he is the focus of it all, and he's worthy of it.
Yeah,
let me just say, he's worthy of it. I enjoy Iron Man. I do think Iron Man's a hero, but we still got to talk about some things.
Okay, so
that's all I'm saying.
He's
Nick's not done yet.
So in the first Avengers movie, we already talked about it. He in his journey in that, it's even before with Iron Man 1 and 2, it's this orphan that wants a family, that he wants a family. He's looking for a family. He's longing for a family. And then in the Avengers movie, he finds this family, but he still pushes against this family because it's like, oh, well, these people are probably going to leave me anyways. It doesn't matter. I'm in this. I'm big money. This is me. I run this show. Yeah. But I feel like Iron Man's full transition to actually, okay, it's not just about me. It's about other people, is after he took that nuke out. Because with Iron Man 3, his biggest thing was PTSD.
Right.
It was from that battle. He couldn't sleep at night. He was making suits to try to help everybody else. Yeah, it's probably feeling something inside of him, and that's not healthy, but that's all he knows. Okay, I have this peace. I have this family. Now I want to protect it. Even in Winter Soldier, he adjusted the thrusters in a helicarrier. So he has a hand in pretty much everything, even
if he's not physically there.
Even if he's not there, you can feel
I forgot about
presence.
that.
And what's it called? So with Iron Man 2, with Avengers 2, that's obviously, that's his biggest downfall. That's his biggest controlling moment.
Yes.
Now we're on a hiatus, even with the opening of Age of Ultron. It's them as a team, as a family together. They're together and they're fighting this threat. And it's like, okay, I don't want to lose this. This is amazing. But in his sickness and in his abandonment and in his own kind of protection mindset, it's okay, well, let's make this so we can protect everybody. But that leads to Ultron, which is his biggest failure. And even Ultron resembles Tony in a whole lot of ways.
Well, this is what going to Age of Ultron here. Here's a couple of things that I took out of that. One is that with Tony, in that moment of weakness of him, of failure in Age of Ultron, he's essentially deflecting his responsibility of being a hero. He's saying, I don't know if I could do this anymore, but I know a way where I could still,
have my hand
good. But
he doesn't want to carry his cross.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
This ties into something that I have later for Doctor Strange, but he's running from his responsibility.
And that's obviously with Civil War, that's why he doubles down with Civil War on what he believes is right. Because Age of Ultron really showed, that was foolish. And I like how but it adds such a complexity to his character. And Ultron, people don't sleep on Ultron as a villain.
Bro,
because
fun.
Here's what I love about Ultron.
Ultron is
People
so
get
fun.
people
He's
get
whiny.
crap.
It's hilarious.
People give crap for Ultron being all snarky and making quips and stuff. I'm like, bro, he's literally supposed to be like Tony Stark, but without the moral. Because here's what Age of Ultron shows. Even though Tony Stark makes a lot of mistakes in this movie and does a lot of really bad things, what Ultron as a villain shows in that movie is that Tony Stark has a heart. And that's a common theme because Ultron is what happens if Tony Stark's heart and moral compass was gone.
But even I have to argue with that because even with Ultron still cared about people. He still cared about how...
No, he didn't. No, he's not what I just watched.
With Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, he was hurt when they actually betrayed him. When Wanda came back and took before she killed Ultron, he
said,
was
you can't stay here,
you're gonna die. You're gonna die.
But
in his own twisted way, he still cares.
He was confusing.
I agree with that.
That whole movie was confusing.
But here's the thing with Age of Ultron, though. But here's the thing about Ultron that's interesting, though, is that Ultron's plan is ultimately humans need to evolve into something else, and the Avengers keep getting in the way of that. So if I get rid of the Avengers and all this terrible stuff happens, humans will rise out of the ashes and some of this artificial AI world will have to be dependent on it. But the thing that's so interesting and compelling about that with Ultron is that, sorry, I get passionate about this.
Go ahead.
What I love about it though is that it shows that Tony Stark is a hero. That cold like he is smart, right? But if he was just that cold calculated, because like you shared earlier, Jason, the emotions thing, it gets in the way of a lot of his decisions. But Age of Ultron actually shows that emotional component that he has it's actually is necessary to keeping him from becoming Ultron and going off the
because that's also what the superior Iron Man I've been talking
in the
about
comics. Yes,
that's basically what it is.
I think I see this a little bit differently. So you'll say that his emotions are the problem, and I think it'll be
no. I'm saying when
his emotions get in the way. I would say he gets in the way. He is
only thinking of
that's
himself.
Fair.
That's fair.
His emotions are there because he has to overcome that. He has to overcome his ego. Without those emotions, he's a robot. With those emotions, he is a human that can become a hero. But even with Civil War, he is so adamant about it because it's his mistake. He did not look for anyone on his team. He didn't care what they thought. He ambushed them with everything, and he said, "This is what has to happen," because he's being motivated by his own guilt. He's being motivated. His emotions are not just his emotions. His emotions are his selfishness. That's what he has to overcome. Otherwise,
but don't we all have a little bit of that in us, though?
A little bit.
Yes, but I don't watch 23 movies of us in those emotions.
But you live 24/7 with them. It's different.
The snap is the most important part of Tony, and
let's get to Infinity War and Endgame.
I think it's perfect that it's him. I enjoy that it's him, and I enjoy his character a lot. I just wanted to bring that side to it.
But I like that you brought that up because it is like. So, back to Avengers. Go ahead.
Go
to Infinity War.
Am I able to end my thoughts on Iron Man, or are we just going to go right
No, just keep... We're just continuing.
We're
not even separating it at this point.
So, what's it called?
And Jason, chime in as well as...
So, what's it called? So,
I'm just going to talk over you.
No, you're not. So, Civil War, what's it called? So, Civil War is that movie where it's like, he is literally operating off of what you just said. It's a selfishness. It's like, I think this is right. but it's pretty much on his selfish.
And what he's saying is right too.
Yeah, what he's saying is right, but that's
motive is different.
Exactly. What his heart is completely different.
I don't think it's so black and white. I think it is a cocktail. It's like I really believe that, and we all kind of are. We're not just all one emotion.
Yeah.
It is all myself. It's a bit of myself. It's I thought that maybe the chords would help my relationship with Pepper Potts because we've been going through a rough thing.
And again, that's tied to the whole family, losing the family. Yeah. And Infinity War, in Infinity War, it shows what happens when that family's divided.
Right.
And it's a loss, and it's a horrible
Do you
loss.
believe, Joseph, that if Tony and Cap and the Avengers were united, they could have defeated Thanos?
It would have been in every other Avengers movie, because what's it called? We were close anyways.
Yeah.
We were close divided, but
Thor's fault.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
Star-Lord, Thor's, it's all their fault.
No, but that's what I love about Infinity War is this idea that it's a story of who wants it more. Mm-hmm. And you have grown up like watching these movies with these heroes, and you believe they want it more. Yeah. But what happens when you encounter somebody like a Thanos? That really is what makes him a great villain.
Like Kylo Ren.
And the movie Infinity War. I'm just going right past that.
Don't go past it.
Let the past die.
We're going right past that. What happens if you have a villain? And Infinity War does a great job in a short amount of time establishing Thanos as an antagonist, and that Thanos wants it more.
Yeah, he wants
and
it
that's
more.
why he wins that movie.
Yeah.
Because if the characters wanted it more, they would put their petty differences aside, and and it shows, like, that's why I think Zemo in Civil War is one of the great MCU villains, because had he not only did he win, but the consequences of what he did in Civil War are felt moved for an entire phase. For all of phase 3, you feel what Zemo did in dividing the Avengers up, and that made the way for Thanos to come in and do that. And Infinity War is so gut-wrenching to watch because you want the heroes to succeed. You want them to win, but you know that Thanos, he wants this too.
Yeah, he wants it a whole lot more. He threw his daughter off a cliff, bro. He wants it a whole lot more.
Yeah.
In the end, it ended up being on who was willing to sacrifice the most.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes Tony so compelling, because he earns that ability to make that sacrifice in Endgame.
Even if so, and what's it called? In Infinity War, he was the last man standing on Titan. He was he made Thanos bleed.
No, he does.
Yeah, he was on that. Yeah, Iron stuff.
His arc is the longest arc to take because he's so complex. Yes. And he's so weak relatively compared to everyone else.
Yes, he is.
But then he becomes the strongest, which is what I enjoyed the most.
And Iron Man always gets, like, Team Iron Man always gets the best team. Civil War and that but that group though on Titan with the Guardian, you've got most of the Guardians there. Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Iron Man. When I was watching that, I'm like, this is the best. This is the best team up I've ever seen in any of these movies. Please, obviously they're not going to do with them
Tony's
anymore.
interactions are, like, by far the funniest.
Oh my gosh. They're all.
He said, "I'm 50% human, so that percent that's stupid to me, 100% you."
It's so good. Yeah, and Robert Downey Jr.
Who am I supposed to say? Jesus.
And Robert Downey Jr. makes this character work.
Yeah,
he is easily in my top 5 favorite, like, castings of a comic book superhero character of all time.
He is Iron Man.
He
even
is
his life.
There's nobody else. Yeah, he literally has lived that story, which is why I think he's just perfect.
Yeah.
He nails it.
Tom Cruise was almost Iron Man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Glad we didn't get that.
We wouldn't do
So what I want to say, I want to turn it with you guys though, because we've been talking a lot about Tony, but I know with the Avengers, there's a whole other plethora of characters as well. So with the Avengers movies, did you have other stuff that you wanted to say about the individual movies or about any of the characters in the movies?
Well, I would just say, I kind of mainly focused on Iron Man, but the Avengers are, in a sense, like Iron Man's heart.
Yes.
That's his love. That's, besides, Pepper, you can throw Pepper in to make Spider-Man, obviously. But that's, that's the people he's fighting for. Mm-hmm. That's who he's like, I would lay down my life for these people. I would lay down my life. And then those people taught him, I will lay down my life for the world. It's not just, I'm going to lay down my life down for these people, but I will lay my life down for this world. Cap has taught him that dealing with these other, people on this team, feeling for them, loving them. I feel like that's really what, changed Iron Man's heart as well.
Yeah.
To that.
Yes.
So his story is a story of friendship as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
The power of friendship.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything you want to say about just the movies in general or anything at all before I transition to mine?
Infinity War is the best MCU movie.
Why? Why is it the best?
Bro.
Questionable.
Tell us.
Okay, questionable.
But probably true.
But I love, I said this before, but I love when the heroes fail. And but it's like.
Because you love those kind of stories.
Yeah, but it's just like a hard fall because it's like we were close. And that's the movie I vividly remember watching.
In the theater?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Why do you like when the heroes fall?
Because the stories afterwards is even more compelling. Because
No, it's not
It's a
though.
greater
That's the
obstacle to
problem
overcome?
is it's
Yes.
not. It's not.
Stories done well.
It could be.
Yeah, but
It could be, but Endgame blows the load.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it now. I'm
Let
going
Joe
to
do
say
his own topic.
Here we go. Infinity
own
War.
topic.
I didn't even get to finish mine.
Infinity War is you got to keep up. Infinity War is
I don't know.
Infinity War is, I agree, one of the all-time great comic book movies, and it's a great way of experiencing a comic book, like a mega comic book crossover event.
Bro, it was all leading up to that.
Really,
I think that's what really was bro, I'm excited for this. 'Cause
Infinity War was
the
the movie in the MCU I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Even because Endgame, for one, you got half the characters that are dead and don't come into the last act, and even though they're really just one-note characters for the final battle, they don't really have any depth to them. Infinity War, every character in Infinity War is even though it's a movie about failure,
Yeah.
every character
Brings
is at
it.
their best. Ryan Johnson, Last Jedi. Every character in Infinity War is still at their best. They're flawed.
Luke is at his best. That's what I would argue.
Because Marvel, no, he's not.
He's overcoming. That's his
Marvel,
heroism.
Marvel characters are built on flaws. All of them. They're all built on some sort of flaw. And Infinity War does a great job at showing how you could still be heroic and still have a flaw, like a blind spot that can lead to failure as well. And so, yeah, Infinity War does a great job encapsulating a lot of things of what makes Marvel just compelling storytelling. And of course, being in the theater and that snap, when that snap happened, my heart stopped. I was like, what? Because I wondered the whole movie. I'm like, is he going to do it? But when it happened, I was in shock. And then it became about, okay, they're about to kill 50% of these people. Who's gonna die? And I had to watch Spider-Man die twice in 2018. Twice! In Spider-Verse and in Infinity War, I had to watch Spider-Man die. You know how hard that is for me? Sorry, we're not talking about Spider-Man.
Did you not feel so good?
But oh my god!
No, while watching that movie, our in my friend group, it's Dre, Kyle, and I. I'm Iron Man. Dre is Thor, and Kyle's Spider-Man in our group.
Okay.
So while we're watching it, Dre and I were in the theory, okay, Iron Man may die, Thor may even die.
Did you start holding Kyle?
Yeah. He was so sad. His face afterward was just so starstruck. He was, I'm
You just
dead.
reenacted it. You reenacted it right in the theater.
Oh, bro, we thought, you died, bro. We thought you were safe. But yeah, it was just wild.
And I mean, there's just so many great moments in that movie, and like Thor is another MVP in Infinity War. I think it's by far his best movie, better than Ragnarok. But I love Infinity War, but here's what kills me is Endgame drops the ball so hard on this finale.
I forgive it because of the end battle and the ending
Okay,
the ending of
but
the movie.
with the end battle, but here's the thing. I agree, the end battle is great in terms of what's happening and all that stuff. But there's a lot of stupid I almost just cussed, sorry. There's a lot of stupid stuff in the final battle. Yeah. For one, as a film, Nick, let me get your opinion on this as a film guy. The final battle is one of the ugliest, ugliest fight sequences.
It is.
In all of the MCU, which is really sad. But then there's a lot of other.
I like some of it. Some of it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but in terms of just overall aesthetics, and the music is really bland.
I don't think it's that bad. I think the setup was so high with Infinity War that you couldn't match it.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's not a horrible movie. It's just man.
But
what came before?
My biggest problem with Endgame though is the fact that it's character development happening off screen. So the Hulk in the first two Avengers movies is probably my favorite character. One of my favorite characters in those first two Avengers movies. In Infinity War, they set up a really great arc for him. In Endgame, they drop it, and they literally, over a 5-year gap that you don't see, he resolves all the conflict that has been building up since his first movie. Yeah. And they do that with several of these characters where all the development, like Tony Stark has a family off screen. Like, all these characters develop in massive ways off screen. And then when you get to the final battle, like, there's, like, if you think about it too much, it starts to irritate you. Like, wait, Star-Lord's back on Earth. His whole arc has been about running away. Now he's back on Earth. He literally has no reaction to what's happening, to him being on Earth. Like, there's no, like, nothing of that, you know? Like, so many of those characters. And Infinity War, those characters at their best. Like, the Russo brothers do Doctor Strange better than his own movie. They do Thor better than his own movie. They do Spider-Man way better than his John Watts movies. Yeah. But for some reason in Endgame, the character development, there's too much they need to do. It's almost like they need 2 movies to flesh all this out. I mean, Ant-Man gets some of the best character stuff in Endgame. And which is kind of sad considering he's not even in Infinity War. Yeah. And they give him some of the best moments in Endgame. So it's like, that. I don't know, what do you guys think of that? But that, for me, is what ruins Endgame, is it's sloppy. The time travel stuff is sloppy.
Yeah.
The character
I never
development,
time travel stuff in most movies.
What I felt like Endgame was just a celebration film, and that's what as looking at it like that, it's like, okay, it's fine. Yeah, it's my least favorite Avengers film, but it's like. It's a celebration. Infinity War was that peak, and now let's just
it really is the peak.
Let's go ahead and just go back in time and just get the Infinity Stones, but we're looking at all the cool stuff that we've done.
Sure.
You know, so
yeah,
that's how I view it.
And thoughts on any other thoughts on Iron Man or Avengers movies, because we're going to transition soon.
So if we're going to talk about the stories that we want to see, are we going to hit on that later on? Because I might bring it up later.
That we want to see?
No, right now.
Okay, so Nick asked me what the heroics were in Iron Man, and I think that the reason that people like Iron Man are from a shallow to a deeper level. One, it's cool. The robotics, every suit up scene is so awesome.
Besides Infinity War.
Besides Infinity War?
Yeah.
Why? Where he does the nanobites?
I don't like CGI. The CGI has been becoming sloppy.
Yeah, I was telling Jason last night, those early Iron Man movies, those suits were real. Yeah, they were really there. And then in the later movies, it's all CGI. Yeah.
But they're good. So there's that. There's the coolness of it. One, he's a craftsman. We are all craftsmen in our own right in what we care about, what we do, the things that we love that are also our distractions. Just the drive, the ambition, that is all relatable. And, you know, there's the stuff like the money, the cars, and all that stuff. That's cool too, but it doesn't really hide that these things aren't good.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It shows them out. And also we all have the selfishness that we relate to in the struggle, and we're trying to do good, but we're not necessarily doing it. But we're all looking at him, wanting him to be redeemed, wanting him to actually get there. And because we're all wanting that in ourselves.
Yeah.
We're all hoping for that. We're all hoping that when the chips are down, we're near death, the act that we've all put up socially for ourselves, we're all hoping that gets dropped and that we do make the sacrifice play, because he puts the armor on Pepper Potts instead of himself. Mm-hmm. He takes the nuke up into the portal and he makes the snap. He's lifting up this entire city by himself.
Right.
And he's pretty sure that they're all going to die.
Yeah.
Like, the act, the selfishness, all that other stuff aside, in the moment, you don't think about all that, I'd imagine. You think about, this is what's got to be done, I'm going to do it. And he doesn't shy away from that. At the end, he's still putting himself right in. And we're watching that, hoping that, man, I hope that I can do that. Yeah. That's what I want to do. I hope that that's what I get to be.
When the moment comes, will you make the sacrifice? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Joe,
I would say
remember that ties into Doctor Strange, but
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, answering the question too, personally, why do I like Iron Man? Because everyone knows my favorite superhero is Iron Man.
I thought it was Superman.
Yeah, it's bad.
I thought it was Captain America.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Captain America is really good.
Why do you hate
That's
Captain
not even a
America?
joke, bro.
Why do you hate Captain
I
America?
don't like him
Captain
either.
America is so one note, and they talk about Iron Man being selfish. Man ruined a whole
Super selfish.
Man ruined a whole timeline just to be with somebody
Yeah,
else's wife.
I think that's stupid.
Do
So
not talk
stupid.
about Iron Man
Yeah,
being selfish,
I agree.
bro.
That's another misstep in Endgame.
You'll lose. We'll do
Captain
that
America
together,
is a
too.
great
wanna
character,
lose.
though.
He's like, what do you mean we're gonna lose together? No. What's your answer?
He is a great aspirational hero.
He gives great heroic speeches.
No, he's a great hero.
As a Boy
He's just
Scout, I
not the
think
same
he's too
type of
Boy
hero as
Scouty.
Iron Man.
What kind of hero is Captain America?
Captain America is an aspirational hero. Iron Man's a cathartic motivation hero.
Okay.
What is that?
Aspirational hero is like what I talked about last podcast, like a hero that you want to aspire to be like and has to constantly has to go up against the odds. So like Captain America, in the first movie is just, like all his movies are very aspirational like. Cathartic motivation is where you have somebody that didn't have that strong moral compass and has to learn to grow into it.
Right.
So both types of heroes are important for pop culture.
Right.
Yeah.
So you need aspirational heroes to aspire to in a culture, because if you're a Christian, it's Jesus, right? But a lot of people don't have Jesus, so you need these reflections of Christ
Right.
Yeah.
to be in other heroes.
Yeah.
And Captain America is a great example of somebody who is moral and good and has to try to maintain that in spite of the odds. Iron Man has to learn that because he doesn't have that. But that's what makes their journey so compelling.
I find myself on the emotional catharsis hero.
Yeah.
Much more than the
Cathartic motivation, yeah.
cathartic
We all
motivation.
do, yeah.
I find it on that. Can a aspirational hero turn into a cathartic motivational hero?
Oh.
They get turned into them a lot of the time. They get broken down into that. Luke Skywalker.
Yes, this is where I'm going.
That's
Yes,
the perfect example. of
better.
that.
and I liked him there.
But again,
But it's all
the
intertwined.
but
It's all
again, but the
intertwined.
problem is that you still in a culture need that. So we like, as a culture, we naturally like cathartic motivation. I like cathartic motivation heroes more, but you still need an aspirational hero every now and then to be the guide, to be the signpost.
Just watch the old movies.
Because and I do, but you need that somewhere there, because like Spider-Man's a great example. I'm not going to talk about this much. He's a cathartic motivation hero, but Captain America is an aspirational hero in the comics. Now in the movies they make Iron Man that hero, which is interesting because Iron Man is in the place of Captain America, but they make it work. But yeah, so that's
It's interesting. That makes it very clear.
Yeah.
That clarifies a lot.
But Joe, why do you like Iron Man so
Well,
much?
what's it called? Yeah, it's pretty much all that we've talked about already.
Okay.
It's that character. Yeah, pretty much. It's the character that's like each time. It's the character that it has to grow.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. We talked about it.
Great.
We talked about
This
it.
character that overcomes.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's someone that's what I find most satisfying when characters overcome great obstacles, and the aspirational character overcomes external obstacles.
Yeah.
But the internal obstacle is what I find more compelling.
They do have to overcome some internal obstacles, but mainly doubt. Doubt is a big one for an aspirational hero. Like Winter Soldier is a great example
Yes.
of like, wait, I can't trust the government. That's a
And
great aspirational conflict.
I enjoy Captain America in that movie, but
Yes.
in each other one,
Yeah.
not so much.
Yeah. But speaking of
we're watching
overcoming
it
great
Yes, we are.
conflict, I'm going to talk about my focus, which is actually going to be on the Marvel Knights, also known as the Netflix Daredevil show.
I think we all watched that this week.
Which
right?
is, I know.
I have no knowledge of it.
You've never seen it?
Very
No.
good.
Dang,
Bro,
it
I'm
is
going to
good.
spoil the hell out of this, so get ready.
It's okay.
I'll just leave.
So
for-
I'm going to
Come
make a
back.
bold statement
Goodbye.
here. For me, the Daredevil show is the best thing to come out of the MCU.
That's fine. I
Better
agree.
than any movie. So like
this is gonna be
the
terrible for me.
so the Daredevil show is like because here's the thing about the MCU movies. For me, they're good adaptations of comic books and they're pretty good overall as movies, but they're not. Most of them are not great movies. Most of them are not like I'm gonna give this 10 out of 10,
They
5
don't, they don't
stars.
stand alone as
And
films.
a lot of it, and a lot of
their
it comes
story.
because number one, they don't stand alone well as films, but also the visually and sound design, like musically wise, they tend to be pretty bland because they all literally have the same palette that's going about in them. What saves the movies are the characters. They're likable, they're relatable, they're believable. The storytelling is cohesive and it's not all over the place. But I don't feel challenged emotionally or morally by a lot of those movies until you get to the Daredevil show. If you don't know Daredevil, and Jason, you're kind of the outsider on this. So Matt Murdock, as a child, was blinded. He actually saved someone's life, but he pushed someone out of the way of a moving car. But of course, that car was carrying these toxic radioactive chemicals, and they spilled and they like splattered in his eyes, right?
Why are they carrying those on the street?
So right. But that is his origin is the whole story of Daredevil. He saved someone's life, but it cost him something. Now, what's very clear in the show, and one of the things I love about the show is that it actually maintains the religious undertones that are in the comic, because Matt Murdock is a Catholic.
Yeah.
So, he's named after Saint Matthew, of Matthew's gospel. And it's interesting because Matthew was a tax collector and Matt Murdock is a lawyer, and those are both very despised professions of their time. And the Gospel of Matthew literally has a verse in it that talks about how bribes corrupt and the injustice, like the Matthew 23 with the Pharisees, like that whole passage about blindness and stuff like that. So literally, the irony of him is he's a lawyer, and you hear the saying all the time, like justice is blind, right? Literally, your lawyer, your sense of justice is blind, and he wears rose-tinted glasses, which is interesting. But he's the only one, ironically, who can see the corruption of the city better than anyone else. So to tell you where it falls into the MCU, after the Battle of New York in the first Avengers movie, what you find out in Daredevil is that there were people who took advantage of that situation. Surprise, surprise, like our world really does. And they took advantage of it in a lot of ways. And this is where a man named Wilson Fisk rises to power on the backs of all this suffering. And Daredevil really explores the ground level story of what the Avengers don't really deal with, because they deal with these more global threats. And Matt Murdock deals with the everyday, ordinary lives of people. The irony is that Matt Murdock embraces this persona of a devil, and that all comes from stuff with his dad and the devil in you and stuff like that. And he embraces this thing, but the irony of him wearing the suit of a devil is that he is actually the beacon of light. He is the hope in it. But he is getting down and dirty. The Daredevil persona is a reflection of what Hell's Kitchen is doing to people. It's corrupt. It's giving something, but he's going into the darkness and trying to confront it. Wilson Fisk is the opposite of that. So if, I got them up there right there. If Matt Murdock is going into the grimy underworld of Hell's Kitchen, right, and he's at the bottom, Wilson Fisk stands at the top. Wilson Fisk is on the top of a penthouse, dressed in all white, looking down upon everyone. And he towers over them because he believes he's the city's savior. This is what makes him so compelling. He believes that he is saving the city through his actions. And like Daredevil, he's getting his hands dirty. But unlike Daredevil, he does not have the same moral compass. He does not have the faith that Daredevil has. Because Daredevil, as a Catholic, has a faith that grounds him and keeps him from going too far and taking life. Wilson Fisk does not have that. He severed that faith that he once had. And so now he is standing there without that. And he's getting his hands dirty. And he's built this persona of being more than a man. And so he is the devil dressed in all white, corrupting the Hell's Kitchen and keeping it in hell. Yeah. But promising salvation and liberation for the city. Cool. And how's he doing that? He's blackmailing everybody from police officers to politicians. He's getting everybody's dirt on them, and he's whispering into their ears the promises that he can make their dirt go away, that he can atone their sins for them, that he can take all that upon him. And he becomes this kingpin of crime, right? But yet he's still a man, and he's the product of abuse, of an abusive father. And both him and Matt had very rough childhoods, but and both their dads were fighters. But the difference is that Matt Murdock was fighting for a better life for his father was fighting for a better life for his son. Yeah. Whereas Wilson Fisk's, who was a politician and was fighting to save the city, but he was beating his wife every night behind closed doors. He was a fighter in the home, and he was abusing that home, and he was teaching his son Wilson to abuse. And he was encouraging him to be this bully because he is a bully, and he's a bully who never grows up. Yeah. And eventually we know that Wilson Fisk murders his own father. He channels that abuse against him when he sees the toll it's taking on his mother. And so it's that unresolved trauma. Matt is seeking redemption. Wilson Fisk is seeking glory. And that's why they're both trying to save the city, but with very different approaches. And so Fisk tries to do it systemically by bringing about these changes, and Matt Murdock tries to do it with the power of the individual. Go ahead.
My favorite scene in the entire 3 seasons of the Netflix show of Daredevil.
Yeah.
I think it's the 3rd season when it's at the end.
I just started 3rd season. I haven't seen it. I can't remember.
Hey,
go ahead. Okay.
All right, keep going, Joe.
So in this scene, Matt and Kingpin are at their highest moment. They just throwing blows. Daredevil ends up on top, and he's just like, "I beat you. I just didn't beat you." I forget exactly what he said, but
I get emotional watching.
Yeah,
that
it's
scene.
just like, bro, this is heavy.
Emotional. It's the best fight scene I may have ever seen in a comic book movie.
Yeah, you feel it.
You know, because it's a 3-way fight between Daredevil, Bullseye, and Kingpin.
Bullseye's in this?
Yeah, hold on. Let me talk a little bit because I think we're jumping the gun a little bit. By
Bullseye
talking
comes
about
in
that.
the 3rd season, right?
Yeah,
because he's not in the second one.
No, but let me just say a couple things before we get to that. This is the existential question that Daredevil is wrestling with in terms of justice. Are people products of their environment, and can they be held accountable to their actions? Which is something narrative practices I've shared about. People are not their problems and about identity, but it explores like Wilson Fisk, Frank Castle, the Punisher, Dexter, who becomes Bullseye. They all had really crappy, traumatic pasts, and no guiding light there to show them the way. Matt Murdock had a guiding light. He had the church, right? He had a priest. He had faith. Stick, who trained him. He had good people in his life to guide him. These people did not. So can they be held account? And that's what the series wrestles with, you know? And because they didn't choose. They didn't choose that path. That path was chosen for them. And Matt believes that people can still choose despite their past. That's the conversation that he's having with Frank Castle, with Punisher on the rooftop, about how he just wants to kill people. And Matt Murdock doesn't believe that that's his call to make. And he talks about redemption, that anyone can be capable of redemption. And Frank Castle said, no, like when people choose a path, they solidify themselves through their actions in that path. That scene gets me so emotional because it's such a gripping, and they're just talking on a rooftop. That's what I love about Daredevil. It slows the pace down and just lets you take these characters in and breathe with them. That scene where they're in the cemetery and Frank Castle, I'm going to start crying, where Frank Castle, after 4 episodes of fighting each other and conflict, Frank Castle finally tells Matt Murdock why he does what he does. And he says, they took my daughter. Frank Castle went to war and he fought for his country and he did terrible things he regretted, but he did it so that he could come back to his family. And what happens? They kill his kid. They kill his family. They kill his child. And he's haunted by that. And and the regret, oh my gosh, the regret that he has as a dad for not reading his daughter that story that night. That scene, I cried last night rewatching that, or 2 nights ago, because I'm like, how many times have I said that to my daughter? Like, tomorrow, there's tomorrow. Wow. And there's no tomorrow for his daughter. And he's realized that, and he's allowed a single story of, I am just this killer. It's the only morality that makes sense anymore. That's what the show is wrestling with, these really real things. And, you know, what the journey that Matt goes on in the show is that Matt Murdock starts to detach himself from humanity and reality. He lets go of Foggy Nelson, who's, you know, his best friend, and Karen Page, who's his love. And he starts to detach because he thinks the only way he can do this is through that. Whereas Wilson Fisk, his downfall is actually his attachment because he falls in love. Your lead villain falls in love, and you're rooting for their love story. That's what's compelling about him as a villain, you know. And you want them to be together because this poor guy who's just been abused all his life finally finds someone who loves him despite all of his cruelty.
Yeah.
And you want them to be together, but it becomes his downfall because now he has a weakness. Now he has something he can lose as a villain, which makes him so. Yeah, it makes him so
vulnerability,
so compelling. In the first season of Daredevil, I love how they beat Kingpin through both. Matt Murdock beats him through the law with Foggy Nelson as lawyers, but then, you know, we realize how far he's penetrated into the system, and then Daredevil has to beat him physically. Yeah. So he has to beat Kingpin physically and spiritually in a sense as well. And this is the final thing I'll say on this, because I've talked long enough about how much I love this show. But the final thing is to understand what the characters represent in the show as well. Like Karen Page represents the people he saves. Flawed Karen Page is not a saint. Yeah. She is a very messed up character. Yeah. But he represents that he sees that redemption in anybody, including her, which I'll talk about at the end. Foggy Nelson is his moral conscience. It's what keeps him grounded into humanity. Bullseye represents the inversion of Matt. Like, Bullseye is a cold man trying to find a connection. Yeah. You know? And Matt is a warm person with connections trying to lose those connections. And when Bullseye stands in season 3 in the Daredevil suit in front of Matt and says, and he says, "I'm Daredevil." Matt is staring at the worst of him. Bullseye is what Matt will become if he's not careful. Yeah. And that's so poetic, you know? And Elektra represents a life without Matt Murdock. Ben Urich, you know, the journalist, represents the power of those who don't have superpowers. Yeah. Just an ordinary man trying to make a difference. The common man trying to do with what he has. And of course, the whole story of Matt Murdock is that, and there are existential questions about faith and Job, and he wrestles through these things. And it really is a story about a miracle. Like, it is a miraculous story because he loses his sight, but all his other senses are enhanced, and God is allowing him to see things in a way that no other person has. And I think because of how deep the character work is in Daredevil and how compelling, and I haven't even mentioned, it's probably one of the most faithful comic book adaptations of the source material, and in some ways it surpasses the source material and is even better than. And it's not. There's only two things. There's only two things. There's only two things.
I'm about to get this source material from this box.
There's only two things that ever. There's only two moments that ever surpass the source material. One is the final episode in season 3 of Daredevil. The way the Born Again arc ends in season 3 is even more better than how the comic book ends. And the other thing that satisfies that surpassed source material, which we'll talk about another, is the Days of Future Past movie, which I think is even better than the comic. But anyways, I've talked enough about Daredevil. What do you guys want to say about it? For those of you who have seen it.
I just like it. I agree with you. I think it may be the best Marvel production out of all the movies as well. And Fisk may be the best villain, although Thanos and him are right there.
Yeah, I agree. They're the top two. They're the top two.
But Daredevil is so entertaining. Yeah. It is just so good.
And it is brutal.
Yeah.
Yes,
it is not a kiddie show.
Just rewatching
it's a hard R.
Bro, I missed this show. It is a really good show. Like, I don't know why I haven't rewatched it, like, for this long, you know?
I don't know why TV shows are going down to 6 and 8 episodes, but Daredevil's 13 each season, and it's just the whole story is told thoroughly.
It's a complete story. Yeah. When you get done with season 3, Joe, did you? And I don't know.
I'm not season 2.
Did you feel satisfied at the end of season 3?
I wanted because they teased Bullseye coming back.
I don't care. I know they wrapped up his story.
but they did though. But it did feel like that. But it was like, I still want more. But in the story. Yes, in season 3 they did.
It's a perfect 3-act structure. Yeah. Season 1, Act 1. Season 1 is really the rise of Daredevil. Season 2 is the fall. Yeah, I agree. That's the weakest stuff for sure. And season 3 is the resurrection or the rebirth or the born again. It's literally called Born Again. Season 3. You know, it's based off a comic called Born Again. Yeah. You know, so it really is like when you get done with season 3, all the characters' arcs wrap up. Yeah. Daredevil's journey, Fisk, the way he's defeated, that final battle is my favorite Oh, it's my favorite final battle maybe in
We'll get there,
anything. I rewatched it today.
Oh, okay.
And I wish I could replay it for you guys.
I'm only in season 1 again, rewatching it.
It's so emotional because you understand why everybody's there.
Yeah.
And the way he beats Kingpin, oh my gosh, it's so good.
You can't spoil it.
It's so good. I can't.
Jason hasn't watched it yet. You can't spoil it.
You have to watch it. It's on Disney Plus now, so no excuse.
Yeah, no.
I don't have Disney Plus.
You have my Disney
Jason
Plus right
does,
now.
or,
I believe
Joseph
it.
does.
Watch
That's
it all.
True. Well, I have someone else's, so I can't be putting business out
All
there
right.
like that.
Anything else on Daredevil
And
before we
just
go to
not
Nick?
To be morally sound.
Anything else before we go to Nick with Daredevil?
Yeah, it sounds good. Sounds like a great time.
I've been trying to get this Starburst at the end of my cup for the whole podcast.
I was wondering.
It's just stuck. It was in my drink and it's just stuck to the
All
end.
right. All right.
I cannot get it.
So
All right,
maybe you
Nick.
might need a magic
I've
trick
been
to do that.
I've been distracted.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, the transition.
Hard transition into.
Wow.
got
Yep.
it.
Lay
I got it.
us some Doctor Strange on
I
us.
got it. Oh, okay. Get the stone ready.
He's wearing the eye.
All right, let me figure out how to say all this.
Maybe you could go back in time and prepare better.
Oh, bars.
Me and you can go together.
Yeah, please take me.
Still got the time stone.
So I'm not super passionate about Marvel. I'm super passionate about movies. And so when we did this, I was like, I really didn't know who I was going to choose.
Sure.
And so I'm looking through all the characters and I'm reminded of one scene in Doctor Strange that I really liked. It's the only scene that I remembered. So I rewatched the whole movie.
Okay.
And I'm watching this movie and I'm also thinking about how what kind of story do we need and what kind of heroes are we looking for,
Right.
and that we're looking up to. And I saw his story, the origin story, as such a good example to the Christian walk, and specifically to mine as well. And I was thinking about all these heroes, and all of these heroes have their regular lives and they are heroes at the same time.
Yeah.
So they're all balancing these things. Spider-Man's a kid. Iron Man's still a billionaire, still gets to have all this fun
He
and
has his
live his
company.
life.
Yep.
He still gets to do all these things. Doctor Strange gives up his whole life.
Yeah.
And he goes completely out, just out. He goes to India. And I'm just looking at my life, where I'm doing now, where I'm from in New Jersey, socially, economically, and there's another word there too, but it is completely different. Where I am in Tamarind is basically like India to where Doctor Strange, to his journey.
Financially.
And so Doctor Strange goes off, he gets hurt, he has his whole life, and then he goes basically into a discipleship program where he's just he's just challenging everyone. He has no idea who these people are, what they're about, their doctrine. He's just fearless.
Sure,
in that regard.
yeah.
He's also undisciplined and immature, and he lacks integrity. But that starts to get built. So he's getting discipled.
Yeah.
I also like the fact that he is in the mystical realm. So he's not on the ground fighting. He's in spiritual warfare, which is what I'm doing in inner healing. So I just think it's a cool comparison.
Yeah.
He's in spiritual warfare. We're all in spiritual warfare in some form.
And it's very accurate to the comic, by the way. Like what you see in that Doctor Strange movie. Like I literally have the Doctor Strange first comic right here, sitting here, and it's almost verbatim. A lot.
Wow.
So I don't even look at this story as a Doctor Strange story. This is just a story that I like. This can be any character, and I don't know his story.
It's the story you need.
But the one thing that I remember is the end where he's with his master, and they're looking at the sky, and she's about to die.
Oh, and the Ancient One.
And they start talking, and she starts telling him, and I wrote this down, but she starts telling him, you have the capacity for greatness. You have always excelled, not because you crave success, but because of your fear of failure. And he says, that's what made me a great doctor. And she says, that's precisely what kept you from becoming great. Fear and arrogance prevent you from learning the great lesson of all. And then she looks at him slowly. She turns and the camera swirls, and she literally just says, it's not about you. And he just looks at her, and there's lightning going out from the background, and she just says, it's not about you.
Which makes I can't talk about
So,
Spider-Man.
but the
Home.
whole
Dang
story,
it.
he is always trying to learn to just get back to his old life. He's learning to take for himself in every way, and she calls him out in every way in the movie.
Well, and how refreshing is it in that movie as well with Dormammu that it's a fight that he doesn't have to win physically.
Yeah.
He has to win it intellectually. Like he
has to win it spiritually.
You know,
It's spiritual battle.
and that's
demon.
right. Well, that's what I love about that fight though is it's not a big epic showdown. It's like literally he outsmarts the villain. I wish we had more stuff like that.
But he also suffers. Like he's also taking pain. No, when he does that.
He does.
Yes, he's bearing
he said-
pain.
he
Yeah,
said-
absolutely.
I think Dormammu says you're going to feel pain for all eternity. He goes, pain is an old friend.
Yeah.
And he just
Yeah.
going. It was just pretty cool. She continues though, and there's a conflict because she is drawing power from the dark realm, and that is like absolutely forbidden. But she's drawing power for a greater purpose to I don't know. It's for a greater good. Yeah. And everyone in the monastery, whatever it is, they can't see past that because their doctrine is so strong. You cannot do this.
It's so rigid.
But he is an outsider, and he sees straight through that, and he's able to see things that they're not able to see.
I like that.
And so, like Marvel, the good and the bad is murky.
Yes.
DC is like black and white, but this is murky. What it means to do good and what it means to do bad. And so she continues and she says, sometimes you have to break the rules in order to serve the greater good. And also I like Doctor Strange because he's so petty, because he goes straight to Mordo and he goes, well, he wouldn't see it that way. The guy that he has conflict with. He has a rivalry with someone that has a different perspective that is equally right. Derrick. And
but complements each other.
Yes.
That's why Nick and I need each other.
And this is what this story said. I thought it was just perfect.
It is perfect. Bring it on. Keep going.
And she says, Mardo, his spirit can be unmovable because he was forged in the fires of his youth. And so our traditions, sometimes they are good, they're necessary. I needed more tradition. I didn't have anything, so I lacked integrity. I would just think and do whatever I want. I'd take any book off the shelf. No one could tell me otherwise. I'd be learning all these crazy things. There were good and bad things to that.
Yeah.
But she says
with the time stone.
But I mess with a lot of things. Doctor Strange looks at him, and Doctor Strange is just calling out the Ancient One, and he goes, "You have no right to say that." And I think he says something like, "I don't care" or something. I don't even care what she has to handle.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. He's right sometimes. But it's also wrong. But she says, Mordo needs your flexibility and you need his strength. And I just thought that was a great line. I thought that was a great relationship. They're dynamic, just like Captain America and Iron Man. If you were a little more adultish, they would get along a little bit better.
But they are still both children.
Yes. But at the end, the most striking thing in this story was he has a watch, and it's like the last symbol to his old life. His watch in his hands, actually, because his hands was his profession, was his identity. And it gets broken in a fight, and he still keeps it and he still wears it. So at the very end, when he becomes Doctor Strange and he's looking out the window to a reality that he knows nothing about, his old life is completely gone. He looks at his watch, he looks at his cross and is shaking hands. He has the magic to go back and have his own life at the same time. He can just avoid this all. But Doctor Strange is not about choosing the right choice when the moment comes. It's choosing the right choice every moment.
Wow.
And he has to look at his watch and make that decision every day. And I was like, this is a story that I need. This story energized me rather than just entertain me. And so I was like, whoa.
That's what I love about Marvel. This captures it right here. Literally, Jason with Iron Man and Joseph with also with Iron Man, but with the Avengers as a whole, and you with Doctor Strange, me with Daredevil. We all find pieces of what we need for different moments in our life, and this is where we're all at right now.
So Doctor Strange I'm realizing that's an origin story. So now Doctor Strange has to prove it. Tony Stark was screwing up for 23 movies, but Doctor Strange didn't. Like, Derrick's pissed. You guys did not see Derrick's reaction. But Doctor Strange now has. I just can't wait to see.
Doctor Strange is screwing it up though, because why we have the multiverse of madness.
There's a whole lot of other variables. I feel like that.
No, he does.
Low key. No Way Home.
Yeah, that's all Spider-Man's fault. He was the villain. He's the number one villain in that movie.
I actually think that's Doctor Strange's fault. You do not oblige a teenage thing like that. Like, it is so irrational.
He wanted to be the cool dad, and this
he got a little weak.
His decision makes sense because you're right. In the first Doctor Strange movie, his actions are supposed to be selfless. So he is trying to do something that's not in his best interest. So he is acting in character. It's just so dumb. But we'll get to that when we get to Spider-Man.
We just fought a battle. All right, I'll get you into this college, bro. Let's do this.
Spider-Man's twisting the spell like all over the place, and Doctor Strange is still going.
He didn't even explain it. Just stop. He's like,
But But keep it to the Infinity Saga.
She has all the answers, and
we'll get to that.
Tony, just trust me, and nobody listens.
All right, so we're going to start to wrap this bad boy up because we could talk about Marvel for hours, and we will talk about it more when we get to Spider-Man, X-Men in future episodes. But for now, what we're going to do is we are going to rank the Infinity Saga.
Yep.
So I don't know how you guys did it. I've got all 23 ranked.
You go first. You go first.
Yeah, you go first because I didn't do all that.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll see how many hot takes, whose buttons I push here.
A lot of hot takes.
Yeah, we're gonna see. Okay. So just so you know, before I read the list, that even though it's not a film, Daredevil would be at the top of this list, especially seasons 1 and 3. Probably one of the best Marvel superhero comic book things ever. But for the sake of doing just films here for the Infinity Saga. At the bottom of number 23, please don't stone me for this, ladies out there. Number 23 is Captain Marvel at the bottom. Let me just say that I love women and feminism and all that stuff, okay? Wonder Woman is in the top 10 greatest comic book movies of all time. That is, I love female-led superhero movies when they're done well. Wonder Woman is amazing. Captain Marvel is just bad all around. Bland in every way is the best way to describe that movie. So, but please don't think I hate women of this or anything like that. I love Wonder Woman. I love many great. So, anyways, number 23, Captain Marvel. Number 22, Thor: The Dark World. Number 21, Iron Man 3 because of the stupid Mandarin twist. Number 20, Incredible Hulk. Number 19, Iron Man 2. Number 18, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Number 17, Ant-Man. Number 16, Thor. Number 15, Captain America, the First Avenger. Number 14, Spider-Man Homecoming. Stay tuned till that episode.
Yep.
Number 13, Doctor Strange. Sorry, Nick, it's mid-tier.
That's okay.
12, Thor Ragnarok. Number 11, the first Avengers movie, which I think is the worst. It's a glorified Saturday morning cartoon for adults.
You said the first
in live action. The first Avengers.
Really?
Yes.
We're past
glorified
this.
Saturday morning cartoon for adults with shallow characters and yes, I could talk about that for a lot. Number 10, Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 9, Avengers Endgame. Number 8, Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Number 7, sorry, Nick, I know it's lower than.
Oh, man, that's...
Number 7, Iron Man, the original. Hot take, number 6, Avengers Age of Ultron. Number 5, Black Panther. Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 3, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Oh.
Number 2. And number 2 and number 1 are very close. They are the only two MCU movies that I legit love.
You didn't say Ragnarok.
Yeah, I don't think you did.
Ragnarok's number 12. I already said it.
The
The only two MCU movies I love, and adore, in the Infinity Saga, and they're very close. Number 2, Captain America Civil War. And number 1, Avengers Infinity War. Anyone else? You guys could give thoughts on those or just stay your own.
I'll just play off yours.
Okay.
Everything from 20 to 9 or 8 is probably the same.
Okay.
But I would have Winter Soldier a little higher.
Yeah,
I would have
I understand.
Winter Soldier top 5. I would take Civil War out of the top 5.
Ooh, that
I would
hurts.
keep actually maybe not. I would do in no order.
That's right. Reel it back in.
Infinity War, Winter Soldier, maybe just those two. And I'm gonna rank. That's it.
Okay,
Civil War is there. Guardians of the Galaxy is there. I like Ragnarok.
Yeah,
I need to see them all.
I have them all right here if you need to see them.
I like Guardians of the Galaxy is up there, Infinity War, Civil War, and Winter Soldier and Ragnarok. I think those would be my top 5.
Because those are because you're a film guy, and those really are in a technical level, the most unique from a filmmaking perspective,
Well,
right?
Ragnarok's the only one that's made. We were talking about this as an actual filmmaker. So
yes,
these movies
I
can't
agree.
stand alone outside of the genre of superhero. They're not ranked
right.
your favorite movies. They would be up there, but Ragnarok has Waititi.
Yeah.
And he pushes the boundary, so I like that.
My whole thing with Ragnarok, why it's so low for me, because my biggest pet peeve with the MCU is the overuse of bathos. And bathos, for those who don't know, it's where you undercut a dramatic moment with humor and a joke, which is one of my cliche, like pet peeves in storytelling.
I think that defines the
And,
MCU. That's the whole thing.
That's why I have a hard time with a lot of these films, honestly, because I like emotion and drama, and that's why Daredevil, you never get bathos in there. But I like in Civil War.
I forgot about Daredevil. That would be I would bounce Ragnarok and put Daredevil there.
Well, yeah, if we ranked it, yeah. But that's why I like Civil War a lot, because the airport scene is your fun fight with bathos, and they get that out. They get that out in that fight, and the rest of the movie is very grounded and serious drama.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Why is Winter Soldier so low?
It's just because the other films are higher.
That's
it's
it.
nothing wrong with Winter Soldier. It's not bad. I don't emotionally connect with Winter Soldier as a movie well. I connect more with Age of Ultron, which I know, like, emotionally, I felt more things watching Age of Ultron, like those character moments, the farm scene, stuff like that.
I would just say Winter Soldier's more exciting.
Yeah, I agree.
fun.
I agree on
But
a thrill level.
Emotionally, it does not connect as.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
I'm a big emotion
It's
guy.
an espionage.
Yeah, it's like a spy. Yeah. Joe, Jason, best and worst.
So I'm gonna go from. I guess I'll go from bottom to top. Least favorite. I'm not gonna do all of them, but least favorite
That's fine.
out of all of them is Captain Marvel.
Sorry, ladies, I feel terrible.
So again, but like this, I didn't do all the rankings, but Doctor Strange, Captain America 1, and Iron Man 3 are all kind of tied for the bottom.
Okay. Ooh, interesting.
Endgame and Far From Home are tied.
Okay.
Then Iron Man 2 and Guardians 2 are tied. Iron Man.
Ooh, ouch, that hurts.
Iron Man, Civil War, Ragnarok, Winter Soldier, Age of Ultron, then Infinity War as my top.
Age of Ultron's your second.
I love
Wow.
that. I watched that movie in theaters about like 7 times when it came out.
I do think
Seven times?
I do think
Yes.
Iron Man should jump up way higher than most people have it. That was the original.
Yeah.
And that was like that had the most impact, and it was a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Wow, Age of Ultron number 2. And what was your number 3 again?
My number 3 was Winter Soldier.
Okay, I'm trying to just get everyone's top 3 in my head. So, okay, Jason, what about you?
I'm really terrible at hierarchy and rankings, but I can just go. These I didn't like. These I did like a lot.
Okay.
So
I
at
have
the
the list
bottom,
of- I have a
I
list
would put both the Thor movies. I've only watched a little
first
bit of
2,
them.
you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I couldn't finish them. And then Captain Marvel is a little bit higher than them, but not really.
Really?
But it's because I couldn't finish the 2, and I could finish that one.
The first Thor
that's the
movie is
basics.
Shakespearean. It really is a great, like, epic story, but yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of
No, it was
problems
more
with
like maybe I should watch it and actually see if that's real. Completely.
parts of
finish
it are. That's
Parts
the
of
problem
it,
with that
okay.
movie. Parts of it are.
I
Anyways,
didn't really like Iron Man 2 so much. In terms of middle ground, I kind of say the other ones. Homecoming wasn't super awesome.
yeah,
It was okay. It kind of got better as the trilogies went on.
we'll get there.
I really did like Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, especially when 1 came out. It was just so fun.
Yeah, those
and
movies
exciting.
are great. I wish we could have talked more about them.
Yeah, it was. We didn't talk about it all. But it was just
best
an awesome
best
fun movie.
soundtracks. You know, like best in terms of like pop
Because
music.
Marvel doesn't have any other real soundtracks.
No.
I mean, some AC/DC with Iron Man movies, but yeah.
That's it. But
yeah.
I'd say that the first Iron Man, I rewatched that recently, and that was a great movie.
Yeah, holds up well.
It really was good. Civil War was a lot more deep than because I watched that one recently again.
You got to
too.
see Winter Soldier before that.
I know. And
I know.
And
It
I've
kinda sucks you haven't
committed
seen
the
that.
cardinal sin, folks, of not seeing Winter Soldier.
Yeah, bro.
So we will be remedying that very, very soon.
In 10
Maybe
minutes.
tonight.
Yep.
In 10 minutes.
10 minutes. I did like Age of Ultron. It was okay. Infinity War was amazing. Endgame was about the same as Age of Ultron. Give or
Ooh,
take
that
a little
hurts,
bit.
right, Joe?
Yeah,
Doesn't that hurt? You feel
Yeah,
that?
that hurts.
I feel like
that right.
Ultron is more fun.
Yeah,
I'd
it
rather
is.
watch Ultron, but I feel like Endgame's a better movie.
Really?
Does that kind of make sense?
No.
I would rather throw on Ultron, but
Age,
Oh, I
what
don't
about
even
the
know what's
bar
happening.
scene
I
in
don't even
Age
know
of
what's happening
Ultron
in
where they're
Ultron.
just sitting around having drinks?
I
trying
liked
to
that
pour
a lot. It was
the-
very.
It's Age of Ultron is the most
humanizes.
human. Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
it
It's the most
humanizes them.
humanizing of the Avengers movies.
Pick and choose when that's okay. Not in the Star Wars stuff.
That boy is salty.
I'm done. I'm tired.
You're about as
I'm
salty as the
tired.
ground they fought
Nah,
on.
I'm ready
over there
for
in that
I'm ready
planet.
for Winter Soldier.
Jason, what are your favorites, Jason?
Infinity War for sure. It was really fun. I was Team Thanos. I was really happy when
I
he
was
won.
I was Team Genocide.
He
Wow.
sacrificed
You just lost
more
all
than
your
them.
cred right there.
He sacrificed his daughter. It's still murder.
More than them.
What are we on?
So is Infinity War your favorite?
I don't know if it's my favorite. I'm really bad at picking a one favorite. But
Jason does not like ranking things, by the way. So I'm sorry. I know I push you guys.
I'm the opposite of Derrick completely.
Yeah, I have rankings for everything. You guys should get on. Come on, guys, get on Letterboxd so we can like.
In the middle, I don't even care.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna say this.
What are you gonna say?
I really did like the Ant-Man movies. I thought they were fun. The first one was probably actually, I don't know.
You'd be Ant-Man.
First one.
Yeah, I think
first one's better.
You do mix with Ant-Man.
Yeah,
pretty well.
you'd be Ant-Man.
It was fun. It's even he's my favorite on Captain America's team in Civil War. They're like,
oh my gosh,
these guys are kind
in
of bland.
Civil War,
I like him though.
that is by far his best movie is in Civil War because he actually gets to be Giant Man. Yeah. That in the comics he could go back and forth between being Ant-Man and Giant Man, and I'm like watching in his movies. I'm like, why is he ever growing big? Like that's a big, pun intended, part of his character. And in Civil War, when he grows big. And Spider-Man cussing is the funniest thing ever because he like never really cusses. So like I don't know what was funnier, like him growing, or Spider-Man like dropping an S-bomb, like and
then he uses Star Wars reference to beat him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love Civil War, guys. Please, can we watch that tonight?
Guys.
I'm down.
It's so good.
He makes an Empire Strikes Back, which you guys can actually agree on.
See, I'm glad Peter Parker.
I'm
glad Peter Parker knows
Jedi
what the
joke.
best Star Wars movie is.
Just wait. Just give me time.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up. So the last question I always ask you guys is, how does whatever we're talking about inspire you to live a meaningful story in your life? And so, these are your final thoughts, closing thoughts. How do these superheroes inspire you to live a meaningful story? Nick, why don't you start?
Oh, I need a little more time.
I saw how contemplative I was, and it was really funny for you to call on him.
Joe, why don't you start?
Okay. What's it called? So, since I grew up with the character of Iron Man, his story has connected with me the most.
Okay.
It's that running off of emotion, being in a state where you can't trust anyone, but going to a path where it's like, okay, I can trust these people, but I'm still doing it in my own way and not in a way that is healthy, and then transitioning over to, okay, I'm actually doing this the healthy way. It's not just an egotistical thing, but it is because I truly love these people. And that's honestly what's been the most connective thing with me, which is why I love Iron Man, because I relate to him the most. But it's just inspired me to have these relationships, but in relationships in a way where it's everyone benefits. It's not just me that benefits, but everybody benefits in the relationship. So, yeah.
For me, I just like them, and I get to enjoy it with people that also like them. So I feel like that's how I'm living a better life with people as we enjoy these things. I remember watching Endgame and at the end where they all come out of the portals and the music starts playing.
Yeah, it's great scene.
I started to get emotional and I'm just like, I'm crying, but I realized that it's just tapping into that part of all of us where we are victorious. We overcome, and that's in every single one of us. Yeah. And so these stories are just so universal, and we get to share them together. So that helps me live a better life.
Just the fun, the adventure, the things that are cool. That's just on a simpler level. Just these things they're just exciting. They're exhilarating. They're pushing the boundaries of our own imagination, and it's just, like Nick said, it's just fun. It's just cool. But a lot of the other things when it comes down to the heroics or what the character's doing, or what is at the core of who I am, who is actually there. Out of all the stuff that I can do, the image that I have to other people, the image that I think that I am to myself, who is at the core of what I'm really doing and what I really care about, what's driving me, what's motivating me. And that's why I picked Iron Man, is because there's all these things that he's doing, all these things that he's trying to be, but what really is driving him? And I think what actually is the core of what I care about. Is it selfish or is it selfless? That's a question that I often examine.
So there's a graphic novel called Marvels, published in 1994, and it's about a photographer, named Phil Sheldon. He's just an ordinary guy, and he begins taking photos and doing stories on the Marvel superhero. So it actually is taking you through the history of the Marvel comics. Like literally starts off with the Human Torch and Submariner, like I mentioned. Then Captain America comes in, and it literally like takes you through the history of how the comic developed, but through a story. And it's through the eyes of an ordinary person. So one of the things you never really get in Marvel is what is the average Joe who doesn't have superpowers, what is their perspective on everything? And so you literally see the Avengers, the X-Men, all these, characters, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Silver Surfer, you see them all through his eyes. And you see how these actions affect an everyday, ordinary person. And, he's very jaded because these characters are flawed and he's judgmental of them and of what they're doing and stuff. And there's a moment where he's trying to clear Spider-Man's name because there was a time in the comics where Spider-Man was framed for the murder of Captain Stacy. It was really Doc Ock who did it. But he goes to interview Captain Stacy's daughter, which of course is Gwen Stacy. And when he interviews her, the Submariner is in the city and there's like rain coming down from the sky. And Gwen, who's just like, I think like she's just supposed to be like 19 at this point, and she sees the rain and she looks up and she just smiles, and there's like, she's just like in awe and wonder that she lives in a world full of such possibility. And this is what he says in the monologue here. He says, I saw the wonder and delight in her face and knew the mistake I'd made. So some of us belittled the Marvels, so we didn't appreciate them. And this is a metaphor for heroes in general. The Marvels are about people who try to do what's good in a very chaotic world. He said that wasn't important. They weren't here to win the approval of the petty and small-minded. They were here to save the innocent, to save people like Gwen. The story of Marvel is a story about ordinary people who are given extraordinary abilities, and they're just trying to do the best with what they have. And it's him recognizing that a true hero is not out there trying to win approval. They're trying to do what's best for the people. They're trying to love their neighbor. And he sees that. And the tragedy of that, of course, is that moments later in that scene, Gwen Stacy is taken by the Green Goblin and she's killed. And Spider-Man couldn't save her. And it's this realization that even in our best, we still are going to fail and make mistakes, which is why my other piece here is back to the Daredevil Born Again story, where Karen Page sells Matt Murdock's secret identity as Daredevil for a shot of heroin, way darker than the show. Jeez. And Matt, his life is ruined because that information gets to Kingpin like in the show. And Kingpin destroys both Matt Murdock's life and Daredevil's life. And he's broken. He's got nothing left. The season 3 is pretty perfect adaptation of that. But there's this moment where Karen Page, who is so overdosed on drugs that she's going to die, and she's in an abusive relationship. She's literally fleeing for her life, and she knows that Matt is the one person who she can, not Daredevil. That's the interesting thing. It's Matt, blind, flawed, Catholic boy Matt. He's the only one who's shown any compassion for her in her life. And she seeks him out and finds him, and she confides and confesses everything she's done and how she has ruined his life. And this is what the panel says here. Nothing, he'd said, Matt did when she told him all that she had done. Matt laughs like a boy and says, I've lost nothing. And Karen didn't understand, but Matt embraced her and held her and knew exactly what to say and when to make her eat and how to touch the muscles in her back to make her sleep. That's his senses. In other words, he sensed what she needed and was there for her, because Matt still believes that redemption is possible for anyone, even the most hopeless among us, because she represents the people that we're called to love in life. And these stories about superheroes are stories about identity. Not who am I? Because none of these people, unless you're a mutant, none of these people were born like this. They all experienced transformations in their lives. And so the story of a superhero, of a Marvel superhero, is not the story of who am I? It's the story of who am I becoming? And that, I believe, is the journey and the story that each one of us are embarking on with our lives. So we'll end there.
That was deep.
Put it like that, then Iron Man's got the greatest arc.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah. So if we look at life that way, And Joe, you tell stories too. Mm-hmm. You tell stories through your stop motion.
I do.
So... how does all this with Marvel, how does that tie into what you do?
So, it's interesting because everybody in this room has either been in a stop motion, is about to be in a stop motion, or is currently in one of my stop motions.
Yeah.
But what some people have kind of picked up on is that my series, I'm working on a 24 movie series, and that's where the MCU has really inspired me. But it's all a continuous story. But it's really I would say a mirror into my life during the time periods that I was creating these things, where I've been working on this series since 2013, 2014. Oh. So I've been working on it, but now I've had the time to actually show these stories. So drafting these stories, they were in my time period where, I was I would say kind of in a darker place, but each thing kind of shows the moments in my life that are significant. Like I would say the first movie I made, Righteous Force, that is about heroes coming together to fight a demon. The deeper part of that is each person I put in my movie is someone that's kind of is actually someone that's in my life. So in this movie, the characters are in this movie are characters that are part of my youth group.
Wow.
My youth group, we were a spiritually strong team. But because we let the enemy in, that's when we started to become divided, and that's what we lost. Our youth group now, there's only like a few of us that really still talk to each other. A lot of people have either walked away from the faith, either are dealing with some things that, because of their actions, things have led to this. But it's showing that, because in that movie we lose. Yeah. And in real life, we lost that spiritual warfare. Yeah. Because we weren't connected, we weren't united, and we didn't stand against it together. In this new movie I'm working on, it's called Our Savior's Rage. This was during a time in my life where I was angry with myself. I was angry around, because of the things around me, situations that happened between me and family members. So I was in this period where I was pushing people away and I wasn't being my true self. In this movie, you're going to see that kind of shows, that kind of shows. I don't want to spoil it too much, but you will see these things. And after everything, all these movies are said and done, you will kind of see a resemblance in a sense of my story and of my life and what have dealt with and the struggles I've overcome. Isn't
that what great art does?
Yes.
It's a reflection of the storyteller.
It helps, it helps.
And it's therapeutic.
State. Yeah. So that's, hopefully the next movie will be out May 28th. But yeah, this is a little deeper look behind the things that I do. I appreciate that. And if people wanted to go watch those films, what's the best way they can do that? Yes, you can go to my YouTube page at Joe Lee Stark 25. I would love it. Please watch them. They're fun. Even besides the deeper stuff, they're pretty fun to watch. And if you do want to have more opportunities to reflect on your story through workshops and classes or one-on-one life coaching, please go to allthingsnarrative.com. Connect with me through social media. And yes, that's what we are here for. So thank you guys for being on the show. Thank you. And we will be back next month to wrap up our Disney franchises by talking about Disney and Pixar animation films. Nice. I can do that one. So get ready, because if Jason and I's conversation last night is any indication, we are going to be duking it out. I'm really mad about one thing he said. What did he say? He said... don't say it yet. Come on, speak BD.
All right, thank you all. This is your friendly narrative practitioner, Excelsior, and Nick is laughing at my phrases. Listen, everyone needs a catchphrase, right? So, all right, man. All Things Narrative Podcast. We'll be back. Thank you so much, and take care.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.